So today we are going to work on mixing your basic color, which isn't really mixing tints, tone, and shade, and practice painting within our shapes. I'm looking for nice, neat lines on whichever shape you're painting, clean edges or nice curves. Try and stay within the line. It's okay if you color over like the black part and turn it to, we're using red, so the color red. But I don't want to see a lot of paint outside of there, whether it's drips or maybe just messy painting. We're working on refining that skill. The first thing you're going to do, number one, paint basic color one time. So just pick one of the shapes to paint your basic color. I like to choose straight edge shapes to start with. Remember to hold your paintbrush like a pencil to make sure your paint goes just a bit on there, and I have it loaded. You can see that it's got a nice big drop, but it's not dripping, it's not soaking wet, and I don't need the paint all the way up here. It's just a good refresher on how to use paint and warming up our skills, because of course you might need your basic color in your picture. Always work from the edges in, just like we do like when we're coloring. So a nice smooth line. I'm trying to cover up the black. Smooth. I'm going to come do this edge because I've already got it here. Nice smooth, keeping calm, smooth, eyes on the paper, staying focused, doing my best work. And my last one. Okay. After the edges are done, this is when I dip into the paint some more. I'm not stirring or anything. And I just get to fill in the rest of it. I want nice painting, stay within where I've already painted, and I'm good to go. That's how easy number one is. Remember, you can choose any shape. I just like the triangle. It's nice and easy for me to warm up with smooth lines. The next one, number two, is to make a tint. To make a tint, we're going to add white. So what you need to do, because you're gonna share these colors at your table, I'm going to ask that on your plate, you take a scoop of your color. I didn't just dip it in, I took a scoop of that color and kind of give it a twist and lay it down on the paper. I would say one, maybe two scoops if you'd like. And then add your white. So the same thing as scoop. It is a-okay because we're sharing as a group that if I get a little red in there, that's okay because my group is the same color as me. When you guys have different colors, it's not going to be the same. You're going to need your own set of paint. And then to mix it, I push into the middle, push, 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 and give it a little stir around. I can still see chunks of white on the paintbrush, so I'm going to again give it that little twist. Because if I still see the streaks on the paintbrush, it's going to paint that same way, and I don't want streaks. You can see it's a tint because it looks more pink. Red plus white is always going to be a pink color. So some kind of tint is going to be made. And I'm gonna choose my next shape. I'm gonna do this one up at the top. I don't wanna put my arm in this, so I'm hovering a little bit. Edges first. And you'll see on the paper, a lot of white makes a lot of a white light color, a nice tint. And I want that consistent color. It's looking really good. I did a good job mixing. If I'm seeing streaks of color in here, and it's not even, then I'm gonna come back over and I'm gonna need to stir some more. But so far, I'm really liking this color. Here is my first tint, a color plus white. It just looks a little lighter than this one. This one says though, 2 times. So this is one, I'm not done. At this point, if my tint is really, really light, I could add more red, a scoop of red and mix it up. But I think mine's pretty dark. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a whole nother big scoop of white to make another tint. I don't wanna run out of paint, but also I wanna see what the different colors look like. So there, I'm pushing it to the middle, stirring it up, pushing it to the middle, stirring it up, giving it that twist. Ooh, definitely lighter. If I think I need more paint, I can come back and get some more. As long as it's one color plus white, it is always a tint, even if it doesn't match exactly what I'm doing in the video. Totally up to you what your tints look like. Just make sure they're one color plus white. So over here, I'm gonna do it in my circle shape. Feel free to turn your paper however it works best for you. I'm trying not to move mine too much so that your video doesn't get too confusing, but what are you gonna do? I still want to make sure my painting is nice and smooth. Remember, holding that brush like I'm in charge. Even though I've mixed twice, my paint is a little higher, but it's not all the way up here. That's the sign of someone who's really mixing and not just playing in their paint. You do not want to just be playing. It's just going to make a mess, and it's honestly going to mess up your plate. It looks a little dry and scratchy, so I need to dip, get more of my color, and paint it. I'm really excited how consistent this is. It's a nice consistent pink. You can tell this one's lighter than this one, but they're still both tints. Now I'm going to move on to number 3, tone. Tone is when I add gray to a color. I can do that 2 different ways. The first way is take a color I've already made. This is a tint. I already have white in it, so I could just take a tiny dip in my black, tiny, and stir it in, and now you can see right away it starts to already go gray. That's one way you can make a tone, is using something you've already made. Or, if I don't like that, I can make my gray first. So I take a big scoop of white, and the tiniest bit of black. Black is super duper strong, so the tiniest bit, and stir it up. There's my gray. It's already pretty darn dark. Maybe I want more white in it. Maybe I want a lighter gray color. But there's my gray. And then I would add my scoop of red and mix it up. So whichever way you'd like to make your tone, you do need a tone. Either start with gray first or add it to a little tiny bit of black to your tint. If I don't have much paint here, that's really not a wise choice. I don't want to run out. It can be really, really hard to mix the same color. These are both excellent tones, even though they're different colors, just like we did with the tint. A tone is any time you're adding gray to that color. So they can look like different colors, they are still both tones. So I'm going to paint this light one first. I'm going to add a little more white to it because I think it looks really pretty. I'm going to do it tone 2 times, so I can choose any 2 shapes. I like working top to bottom. It keeps my hand a little cleaner. So I'm going to do this big blobby shape because it looks really fun. I have to stay concentrating on my paper when I go around those curves though. I can't just rush it because I know I'm also being graded on how smooth and consistent my painting skills are. I don't want to mess it up. I need a little more paint. I'm not painting all over my plate. I need the plate as a tool, as a palette, so that I can continue to put more and more colors on it and work on my artwork, or in this case, our practice. It's a tool, it's not something you're painting. It's not the artwork. This is a tool. So keeping those colors ready to go. I'm running out, I hope I can make it. Probably should have used my other color for this one. Oh well, make it work. Find a solution. It's getting kind of scratchy. All right, let's see. There we go, just made it. I can see a little bit of too much darkness over here, so I want to stir that in and mix it. I want a nice even color, no streaks. There we go. There's my first tone. When you compare the two, it definitely looks more gray, but it doesn't look just black. It does not look just like a shade. And lo and behold, I've already mixed my other tone. I need it 2 times. So I dip over here. And like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and do this one. So I go ahead, it's gonna be hard with those pointy parts. Tiny bit of my brush, and then I can use the big wide side of my brush. Tiny bit of my brush, wide part of my brush. As we're mixing these, you're gonna get better and better at the painting skills as well, and find what works for you. It is always a great rule of thumb to do the edges first though, because if you don't, that inside painting, you might work too quickly, get a little distracted and go outside the line. Unlike pencil, unlike a lot of materials, there is no erasing in painting. It is what it is. You can try and paint over it when it's dry, but there's no just erasing your work and fixing it up. It has to do with doing it right the first time, which I always like to say means calm mind, calm body, focus on the work you're doing, not what other people are doing or talking to them, really getting your own work done. All right, so now I've got 2 different tones. They're pretty similar, but I can tell, at least in real life, that this one is very gray and this one's just a little darker, a little more black to it. Before I go on to shades, I have to rinse my brush. There's white in the paint on my brush. Can my shade have any white? No, no white at all. So I get my cup, put the paintbrush all the way to the bottom, swirl it around. Whoa, lots of color came out. I'm not splashing, I'm just kind of swirling back and forth. And then I wipe off the edge. If you can still see some paint on there and you're worried about it, you can go ahead and do this again. You're not scraping it on the bottom, you're just giving it a nice rinse. I'm not splattering my paper, just wiping it off. Last thing is the shade. So I'm going to go ahead, and black is super, super strong. I've already told you that. I'm sure you've heard it a bunch of times by now. I'm gonna take quite a lot of red to start. I'm gonna make one shade, and then hopefully I can make it even darker with the black to make my second shade. So there's a lot of red, and I take a tiny dip. You can see just the tiniest end of my brush is black, not the whole thing. And I stir it up. It gets dark so fast already. Push it into the middle, like we've been practicing, and give it a little stir. Twist the excess paint off. Should be a good little bit of a shade to it. I could go darker, but I think I'm gonna start with a medium shade and then go really dark for the last one. Over here, smooth edges, smooth edges. See how still this hand is too? I'm not going anywhere. All of my attention, all of my focus is on the work I'm doing. Because especially those curvy lines, ooh, I went a little over. But at least it's smooth, so hopefully not everyone will notice. What are you gonna do? You might make mistakes. We're just warming up. This isn't our final product, our final project. And last one. Get a little more. Smooth and curve, smooth, curve, and fill it in. There's my first shade. I really like shades because it doesn't look like tone, it doesn't look like tint, it looks very dark. Shade is so easy to identify. Now I need it 2 times as well. I've got one more shape left. This is where I can go a little bit crazy and get some more black. I could get quite a bit, but I don't want to ruin it too fast. I can always add more. If you add too much, it's going to go so dark, so fast, you won't even tell what color's in there. But this is, wow, dark, but I like it. Looks like a deep maroon red color. Pushing it to the middle, stirring it up. I can always add a little more red. I can add a little more black and see how my color turns out. Ooh, really dark. If you cannot see your color at all, then I have concerns, but as long as you can tell it's not the same as the black, it still has a little red to it, then you are good to go. And paint your last box. Remember, you can go in any order you like, but your last box should be a really dark final shade. I want those smooth lines. And I need some more paint, it's already getting scratchy. Take it nice and slow and finish up your last shade edges, and we will have our tint, tone, and shade all ready to go.